Today, as Tomo mentioned, we have a special guest, Sam Eddinger. And really, what started me on the Notion journey is Sam. He came on a call on our PMS calls on Tuesdays a couple months ago to show us his Notion. And I was doing stuff on Airtable and LeadSimple and like Google Docs, and I was just completely flabbergasted. So you guys have the person who inspired me to go into Notion and dive into all this stuff. And he's going to show you all the cool stuff that'll make my stuff look like yesterday's news. So I'm going to hand the mic off to Sam, and we'll take it away from there.
Yeah, so Carlos, prepare some slides to show people what you do, because I'm going to hand it off to you relatively quickly. Thank you, guys. I unfortunately can't see, so I don't know if people can speak up. But one of the questions that I like to ask is, what exactly do you guys do specifically when you have tasks that need to be completed that are one-off tasks? So an owner says, hey, I need you to do this, or something's happening. What does everyone do? What's your strategy on how to do that? I know what I did, right? I had pen and paper. I would send myself emails a lot of times that I would then star as tasks that I needed to complete, right? So there was all sorts of things like that. And I was always just like, there's got to be a better way. Hey, look at that. Maybe I am going to be able to get in. Bear with me for a second. Yeah, pen and paper, legal pad. People have other ideas that can occur. And I am going to wait another about 15 seconds, and then I'm going to get on Zoom so I can see all you guys. Look like I got internet again. Yeah, it was one of the problems that we had. The other problem that we had is, are a bunch of you guys on EOS or are familiar with EOS at all? Because we're on EOS, we have 4 different level 10 meetings. And each of those level 10 meetings have to-dos, have the headlines, have issues that are different. And what we had one of our employees, one of our leadership guys, we're like, why didn't you get this task done? And he said, I completely forgot about it. It was in a spreadsheet I didn't look at. We were looking at like 7, 8 different spreadsheets. And it was like, you got to figure out ways to compile it all together better, right? And I know that there's other technologies like Airtable and 90.io. But my other thing was we were trying to come up with ideas on how to do it, but only have one software. So there's a whole bunch of different softwares that you can use for all of these, but now you're adding 3 or 4 different software. And we didn't want to do that. One other thing was there's a book called Measure What Matters. It's about objectives and key results. It's a little bit different than rocks or maps, what they call in the EOS language. And so in that case, a lot of it's more about building these nesting structures that can have multiple layers. And maps and rocks don't really do that as well. And so one of the things that they said in that book is you need to have a place, especially as you grow your company, where you can track these major initiatives. And so ultimately, the fact that Notion has the ability to have AI search capabilities so that you can track issues or OKRs was another big reason why Notion could be a valuable tool, as well as the fact that everyone's moving all of their natural Wikipedia and all of their tables and tasks and stuff to it as a repository instead of Google Docs. So we thought that we could solve like 3 or 4 problems if we could just figure out a way to do workflow task management in Notion. And that's where Carlos got in. And so, Carlos, I'm going to let you now go, and I'm going to listen like everyone else and let you share how we use it, what we do, how it's super impactful and valuable to our team. And then we can answer questions if people have. So take it away, Carlos.
Okay. So basically what we did first is we have team spaces for every area of the company. We have leadership, we have accounting and special projects, operations, marketing, and every one of these places of these team spaces has a dashboard. So this dashboard calls, the first section is the widgets section. You can put like quote of the date, widget here, a calendar. There's a lot of widgets, but I have only used these ones right here. And then we have our operations team gallery. Basically, for every space that we have here, every space has a gallery too, right? In here, I have the positions that are within the operations team, maintenance coordinator, leasing, inspector, success managers. We have our company vision and values here, just handy for everyone to see. And then every one of these team members space or galleries. Inside of this, that's a position. Inside of this, we have important documents from the wiki that we think this position will have to look at every time. Their training material, maintenance coordinator, best practices, stuff that we want them to circle back whenever they need to. Then inside this, we have something called personal space. So the personal space, this is the position, and this is for the individual, for a person. So if I click on, for example, Jose Nunes' space, I'll be able to see the OKRs or rocks that he's working on, the objective, and then we have the key results as sub items. And then if I need to, I can also have a global view, so he'll be able to see all the objectives and key results the company is working as a whole. So this view right here, it's just, I'm playing with the filters of views right here, the filters that I have. Let me just make this bigger. The filters that I have here, it's just for Jose and for the quarter, because I can have different quarters in here, right? With the multi-select option, right? And then for the global views, I don't really have any filters, but I have for everyone's space where they can see where everyone's working on. Going back to my OKRs, if he wants to support this activity with another sub item, just obviously drop the menu and we can put like something else. Right? And the cool thing about this table is that it's connected to our level 10 meeting. For example, if I go to our leadership level 10 meeting and I have the main table right here, I'll be able to see everyone's key results. And the one that I put in here for Jose. Should be right here. Just let me double check. Yeah. Oh, work class maintenance. I'm sorry. If I go to work class maintenance, I'll be able to see that here. We can auto-populate, and in real time, these tables are gonna get updated. So basically, this master database for the KPIs, the OKRs, and yeah, I'll go into the KPIs later on right now. But yeah, this is how we track our big projects like our rocks. And I don't know, Sam, you want to explain to them what our OKR, what's the basis on this?
Yeah, so again, it's to measure what matters. But one of the things that I love about this is that you can actually run projects through this, right? So you can have quarters, you can put in date fields, and so like can drill down what does world-class operations look like? It's all the different constituent parts: world-class accounting, world-class leasing, and then we can say what is world-class leasing, and we can continue to add it, and then we can essentially make and build out like specific project plans for each and every constituent part and continue to be using subtasks, break it down lower and lower. As Carlos is pointing out, you can also go into it, you can put notes, it can allow you to have certain information. And then why don't you talk about the status a little bit, Carlos?
Yeah, so basically we have a status here, standard, but we have, a couple of to-dos, status, in progress, and roll to next quarter. It's basically that someone will mark this as a completed activity, but until we get in a meeting and kind of agree to 100% that this is done, we click on verify by team. So this activity will disappear. Right? So to go to the completed tables or a completed test, so it's no longer here. And we all have this one, which is called roll to next cube, which basically, if we need to go back to the previous quarter, we'll see which ones we need to roll to next quarter. We'll connect them to the current quarter as well. And we have dates. We can put like a start and end date as well. We need to.
I want to talk a bit more about the status, guys. So one of the things that troubled me with LeadSimple is the fact that it's Boolean. It's done or not done. You check the box and you complete the task or you don't complete the task. But when it's a one-off task, done and not done is probably not sufficient, right? What was done? If that was done, was that actually done well enough, right? And so people frequently think that they've completed a task, but is that task really done well enough, right? And so I didn't like the concept of having Boolean done and not done. And so what we ended up doing was, as we said, we had a whole bunch of different statuses. And so the concept is, and as Carlos will show you again, if you go over to Jose's personal space, is Jose can then say that an activity, an OKR or a KPI, a to-do is done, and then it goes away from his list, right? He thinks he's complete. So like, why don't you go ahead and make one of them, for example, in his list. So you can see if he changes that one from in progress, it's an ops level 10. What do you do? Okay, you can do it that way too. No, just make it done there and then go to the meeting. So now you can see that when he did that, it removed it from the physical sheet because the filter removes anything that's done. So when you're working in your personal space, it's done. But now if he goes into the meeting, I think it was an ops one. So make them all done.
Yeah. All right, there you go.
Go up. So now you can see that it's done. And so now if he changes that back to, okay, well, it actually wasn't done correctly, we can add some other additional notes and we can put it back to in progress. And so now if you go back to in progress, now it shows up again. And so what ends up happening then because of that is that you're able to then essentially say whether or not stuff is done correctly. And as a team, you can discuss what actually was done. And then when as a team you determine that it was done correctly, you can say verified by team. And then it comes off of the meeting view, right? So this is basically a personal view, and we have meeting views so that we can run our level 10 meetings. So I don't know if that ultimately makes sense, but the use of status is very powerful, and for us can allow us to not have to communicate. If you have your people working on, let's say we have, for example, we have a daily huddle. So I don't know how many of you guys run a daily huddle with your team, but in the daily huddle, you have to-dos that occur. And so from the to-dos, if you've got really high-level tasks that a person wants to know whether or not they're completed, what you can do is you can have a person that reviews the daily huddle meeting and things are put to done. They can know that the activities are completed, and then they don't have to follow up throughout the day because you can know that the person actually did what it said that they were supposed to do. So it can actually give you some fidelity, some clarity without having to call and text and inter-message, Slack notifications, what actually was done. The whole goal that we're trying to do is minimize the need to have all of those small, frequent conversations all the time. And so this can give us a source to do that. So in the daily meeting that Carlos has here, we have a number of activities that Kyle completed and Anthony completed and Jose completed that are done. But for whatever reason, they haven't yet discussed it and verified that it was completed, so that it gets off this list. In that way, we're running.
And the cool thing about this is that we can play with the filters and views too. So we have red items. If someone marks something as priority red, it's going to show up here, right? So I have a different view on the table that works with a different filter. We also have the completed task view for everything that was marked verified by team. So I think this is pretty powerful because you can use separate views with filters for everything.
Yeah. And so the filtering is what's one of the things that I think is the most powerful, because you can see in this case, we're filtering by meeting, whereas in the team space, we're filtering by person. So because of the fact that we have these global linked databases, we essentially use filtering to have everything in a consolidated place in their personal space. Or when it's a meeting, we can only speak about those items that are actually related to the meeting that we want to speak to. It's really powerful because you can talk about what you need to talk about, where you want to talk about it, but it also consolidates everything together into your personal space. That was a really quick. Go ahead, Carlos.
Sorry. No, I was about to say, so that's that with the personal spaces. There's also tables for KPIs, which is, you can see, we have a KPI here for Jose, and if you go to leadership, that's also connected to our KPIs table. So everything that we're doing here for a KPI, especially like if I change dates in here, or I put a number or whatever, it's gonna change in here too. So it's called sync blocks, which is like connected. So we don't have a problem where if we update something in one table on a meeting, it doesn't really get updated on these other places. But with this sync block feature, now we're able to, and everyone's going to be able to see their KPIs updated in real time, regardless of the meeting or the space, which is also played by filters too.
What was your decision for running multiple team spaces, and how can other people get cross content and context across departments if they are siloed into their team spaces, and how do you guys solve for that?
Carlos, I want you to talk about the tactical way that we do it and reason we do it, but I want to talk about the strategic way we do it. So there can be personal information, right? So we can decide that we want secondary databases that are only able to be seen by the leadership team if we want to talk about sensitive personnel issues, for example. And so there can be times when we want to restrict certain aspects of data. And so for that reason, we wanted the capability to do that using team spaces. But we, in fact, I don't think actually really limit any of that throughout the team in practice. But we wanted to build a robust enough system that if there became time when we had sensitive information that we wanted to discuss, we could potentially have secondary databases that could be restricted by in who there is.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
then practically, now, how did you essentially do that so that we could do both, Carlos?
On theory, there's multiple ways. The first thing is that we can just, I don't know if you guys can see, but we can use a share button right here. There it is across other spaces or other people, or we can just put everyone on Ironclad should be able to see this. So that's a way. But for example, if I want to, let's say this table right here, it's on the leadership meeting, right? Like the KPIs. Let's say I want, it's just an example, right? But let's say I want this, a copy link to blog, and I want this to be, let's say, on the marketing dashboard. Let's say I go to the wiki and I want this here, right? Just pretty much do Command V, sync blog, and then I have access to this, and it backlinks to the original one, which is finance and special projects and leadership meeting. But now everyone who's in this space will be able to see that in real time too. So that's one way. It's just sharing or copying the block and linking it to another space or another page of Notion.
Okay.
There's a question from Marco about LeadSimple tasks. And so one of the things that we love about KPIs and LeadSimple is the fact that we have the capability to see very clearly who is completing activities and not. So one of our main KPIs for every single person is the number of outstanding LeadSimple tasks, and now the number of outstanding Notion tasks. So again, with the database being a global database, we can look at the number of tasks that are not done that are overdue by each individual person, and we can count them. A LeadSimple one, it's a little bit harder to do. And the reason for that is because if a person ends up pressing a button to check a box, and a person that gets the next task is gone for the day, then tomorrow it'll show as an overdue task. And so we didn't think that was really fair. And so we don't count any tasks that were due yesterday for that specific reason. We only count tasks that are 2 days overdue, 2 working days overdue. And so we end up having to go in and actually count pretty quick. We do it pretty quickly, have a guy who counts them every day, the number of overdue tasks. And then we use that as a main KPI, know that everyone's going into LeadSimple every day, everyone's going into Notion every day and getting their work done regularly. So yeah, we do count it and then we add it up and then we average it over the week. We actually use that as a means to we get an email. It's completely transparent. Everyone in the company is on it that says, here's your number of overdue LeadSimple tasks. And the hope is that then people will be a little bit embarrassed by the fact that they have a lot of overdue LeadSimple tasks, and then they'll actually do their work regularly. We try to be, in a lot of cases, we try to be very transparent about success or failure of each individual, and this gives us the tools to be able to do that. Great question.
We're talking a lot about KPIs and routing on EOS, making your EOS level 10 meetings operate within Notion. What are other parts of the business that you guys are running in Notion, like quarterly meeting or quarterly reviews with your team members, or any HR policies, or anything that is EOS adjacent or part of your level 10s and your IDSs, but aren't strictly your level 10 meetings and KPIs?
Yeah. So again, we talked about OKRs as one. Another thing that we do is like daily huddles is another. I think the benefit of this is it's really customizable for each company. So if you wanted to do one-on-ones with people, you could have a one-on-one meeting where you could give tasks to do based on that one-on-one conversation. If you have standard reports meeting, you can do that as well. And so we do run our level 10 meetings out of here. We haven't ran our 90-day ones out of here, but a 90-day or quarterly one, it kind of runs as a level meeting, but just on a longer form. So figuring out OKRs so that we can put them in. We're figuring out other to-dos and issues that to be done. And so we're generally adding them to this database. We add it usually to the leadership meeting, which is our weekly meeting, in lieu of having another standalone meeting built in Notion. But conceptually, yeah, we could build out a 90-day, really easily a 90-day meeting through Notion.
Perfect. And another question I was going to ask is there any team members or any departments that don't really interact with Notion? Like, is this a necessity for them, or is this something that your entire company operates out of?
I would say our whole company operates out of, because again, that's why we want to use Notion, because it's at the very least the company wiki where people can get information. So our accounting person's in Notion putting stuff in. Because we run all of our level 10 meetings out of Notion, every single member of our company is part of at least one level 10 meeting. And so to-dos come out of Notion, the tracking of KPIs and discussion of them come into Notion, the OKRs and the discussions of them are all in Notion. So every single member of our team uses Notion regularly. With that said, we don't have a maintenance department. So if we did have a maintenance department, maybe that would be one that we don't. But I could see a couple people that maybe wouldn't use it, like sales and marketing functions. But no, like we do quite a bit in Notion with them to track activities that need to be done. So everyone's got a Notion, you'll log in, and everyone is expected to go in there every day.
Hmm.
And we want people, right? We want to provide enough utility that people want to be in Notions. People are putting in how they do things and videos, trainings, all sorts of stuff. We're starting to populate it more and more every single week and every single month.
Gotcha. A question for you, Sam and Carlos, respectively, is something we found in Notion is every individual person kind of likes the dashboard in their own specific way. They want like very specific things from different areas, and they want like a one-stop shop to see the top 3 to 5 things that they want to be able to look at quickly. Carlos, what's your space look like? And then Sam, what does your space look like differently? Like, what are they different? Why did you make the choices you guys made and the layout? If we can get some
Yeah.
insight on that.
So what I will say is I just used it the way that Carlos had provided it. So I would say that while Carlos is very knowledgeable about Notion and how to build it and customize it, I would say the remainder of the team is not. We use it as a really good tool to search, to find things, but we're not really modifying the dashboard. We're not really updating our team spaces, though people can do that. We haven't really taught them how to do that. So, Carlos, I don't know if anyone has updated the dashboard, but if you want
Actually, we do, yeah. For example, mine, this is my personal space where I'm able to see my OKRs, my KPIs, my to-dos, right? As Sam mentioned, like we can have multiple to-dos from multiple meetings here, just in one table, just would be a master to-do database. We also can put headlines on all the meetings that I'm part of, and same for the rest of the guys. Right? But what I customize here in mine, for example, I have project trackers here for like marketing, as a very long list. I have project trackers. I have the operations project tracker too. Some SEO optimization guide that I was working with our SEO expert. I have processes that I'm working on. These are all Notion blocks, and I have completed projects that I worked at. So this is like the way I track my things. I did that for Liz too, Sam. Just that she wanted to have something on her space, like for easy access. So she has her sales and assistance best practices, some of the stuff that she wants to have like handy. Then she has the marketing project tracker too here because she wants to be able to backtrack on all of this. She has my pages. This is the online courses that she does from time to time. She has a lead tracker, which this is also part of her marketing level 10 meeting. So this is where the list actually populates everything that fits back to the marketing level 10 meeting. And I'll show you that in a minute. And then we have some notes for the meetings that she's having with the sales expert. So Lise is one of the persons that asked me, can I customize this? And I was like, yeah. And the rest of the team, for Mike, for example, too, I think I did a couple of other things. Yeah, I put just a couple of things that Mike asked me to have like handy in his space. And Mike also, he puts notes on his OKRs too, because he likes to like do this, right? It's customizable to everyone. When someone asks me like, "Hey, Carlos, can you do this for my personal space?" I do that for them. The dashboard and like main galleries and tables, I count them to have the same format, right? We have the same format for operations, for the marketing team too, right? So I kind of want to have the same template, so to speak. But the personal spaces are really customizable, right? This really depends on the stuff that you want to have on your space. And as I mentioned, I'm working on a wiki too, so we can have something like this where we have everything that belongs to accounting, business developer management, business developer manager, the company policies, company practices, all of that in this like board view. And at the same time, we can have different views just for whatever it's accounting, company, and all of that. Right? So it's pretty powerful in that regard because you can also play with features and views. And you can also link this to their spaces too. Just link page. Let's say you want to work with stuff. And I had it right here, right? But I was just showing you how this is done. And then it's a backlink, so I just click, and it's gonna take me to this page right here. So yeah, once again,
I think the point though is what Carlos is saying is it's very powerful and very customizable, but you can also just standardize it. The team doesn't want to customize it and want to just use it as a personal space where it just consolidates the to-dos and you're just trying to do that, make sure that you don't miss things. But you can also customize it to really earmark certain things that you're going to do more frequently. So it definitely has a lot of customization. My philosophy on this is I don't want to have, to be honest with you, I don't want to have 11 or 12 Notion experts. I want to have someone that's familiar with it, like Carlos, that can maybe do some tweaks. But I always want to say, how do we make something that is good for everybody and everyone can use it well, and it doesn't have to be specifically customized significantly for each individual team player, right? Like the benefit of this one is it's really easy to customize like specific meetings, right? I can say this specific meeting, all a lot of times I need to do is change a filter that is a one-on-one meeting or a 90-day meeting, and then add a couple other areas we can maybe do add meeting specific content that we need to talk about. And so, like for example, why don't you, Carlos, show the marketing meeting where we have the leads and we have things to discuss our kind of sales and marketing strategy, so you can see how you can maybe customize even within a meeting.
Yeah, just let me show them, right? Like right here, we have the dashboard for the finance and special projects, right? As you see, it's a little different from the operations dashboard. Once again, the template is kind of the same, right? When I have a widgets gallery, team gallery, meeting gallery, and then we have different meetings in here, right? If I go to marketing, I have different things too right here too. Have a meeting with Jan, which is our high-level expert, standard meetings, and then marketing meeting. It's kind of like the same template, just the only thing that we added different here is the marketing picture, like our marketing strategy, and our lead tracker, which it's different from the rest of the level 2 meetings, but it comes the same, right? Like we follow a structure. We have drop-down menus for every section of the meeting. Sam?
No, I think Michael was going to potentially ask a question or say something.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, this is great. Most of our viewers here have had a couple weeks of kind of learning some of the basics of Notion and kind of understanding pages and databases. Seeing what it can look like once it's fleshed out is really critical. So as we're kind of to wrap up here a little bit, what would you recommend on a professional level people start with, not on Notion, but also like conceptually, like what would be like a rough roadmap on how they could start embedding Notion into their business and the best practices and maybe some things to avoid when going to it?
Yeah, so I resisted things like Notion for a long time. And the reason why was because, and also similarly, I ever got into Zapier. I'm the type of person that only wants to bring on new tech when I really realize that I'm going to fully utilize it. And so the wiki for me wasn't enough reason to ever go on Notion. When we had this problem, which was we were starting to miss important things that we needed to do because they were in sheets all over the place and we couldn't keep track of it, that's when I knew I needed to make a change. And that, along with knowing that there's to-dos in Daily Huddle, how are we tracking those to-dos, as well as the necessity to be able to search and the AI capabilities. That's where I was like, hey, look, let's see if we can make Notion into a space to do workflow automation. Or not automation, but task management. LeadSimple is really good at certain things, but even if LeadSimple with their one-off tasks that they did, it's still not for me good enough, because one-off tasks, you need to know what good looks like, what complete looks like. And so having the ability to filter on Notion with a number of different statuses is super valuable, because if a person doesn't know what to do, they can change the status to need more information, right? And then if you're going in and you're taking a look, you can say, oh, this person needs more information, let's have a conversation. Or they can say needs more information, and then they can add a note. From that note, you can look in and then you can answer their question, right? And you can do things like that with statuses to allow the interchange of information between people on specific tasks to be kind of seamless. So what I would say to people is find enough reason to go all in on it. The second thing that I would say is, like I said prior, you want to basically think about what you want to be as a company like 6 months or a year from now, not where you currently are. And so I know so many people that are trying to solve today's problem. And so if you think about it from a longer term philosophy like we have, is how do I solve this problem such that when I'm 5 times bigger, it's still not a problem, right? So a lot of the decisions that I make in everything I do is how do I build solutions that will scale with me? And so Notion can do that very easily, as kind of Carlos has constructed it, and it doesn't have to be overwhelming, because you can have these team spaces, and then these basically where each of the sections are within the team spaces, people can kind of see where they need to be in Notion, so it doesn't seem like this overwhelming beast that it could be. So I think those are a couple ways that I would think about it as you're considering whether or not Notion's the right tool. But make sure that if you do it, you got to go all in. You got to commit to going all in and really fully utilizing it, because it's a very powerful tool and it can really help you in a lot of ways.
Great response. Sam, what's something cool you're working on right now? Whether for Ironclad, for in general, what's something cool you want to let people know?
So what we do with a couple of things here is with Carlos is we recognize the value of this. So we ended up taking this information to the systems conference, and the support of this was amazing. Right? So if you guys think that there is value to this, we're happy to talk about potentially building it out for you. So this is something that is new to what we're doing, which is now using Carlos to help build out these type of things. So that is something that we're doing. We're starting putting out and trying to help people do this. What I think about what is amazing about this, though, Mike, is I don't think the market for this is just property management companies that are on Notion. I think the market for this is for all people that understand the value of EOS and want to figure out ways to efficiently deal with to-dos and one-off tasks. And so I'm actually starting to talk to EOS implementers, people that use 90.io, which is a tool similar to this that is specifically for EOS and EOS functions, and seeing how our product stacks up against those products. But yeah, I'm looking to try to help people get rid of some software. So if that's the question that I have, that's what we're doing. Is we're thinking this is something that's really can be amazing for our industry, and I think it's well needed. So
awesome. And where can they find you if they want to ask questions or find out more?
Yeah, so both Carlos and I, we use our first name, so Carlos or Sam at ironcladpm.com. It's IRONCLAD, P as in Peter, M as in Mary.com. You can call me directly at 860-254-7343. And Carlos, if your phone number, if it's still correct, you can call him directly at 860-969-3933. I think that's still your number, Carlos.
Yeah, it is.
So if you want to call Carlos, you definitely ask his questions. And what I would say too is if you guys just want to see a little bit more detail, I know this was more formal, but we'd be happy to do a demo, happy to show you more about what we're doing. We love to give back to the community. That's what we want to do first. Even if we can give you a little bit of information so you can build it out yourself, we're happy to do that. We just know that it's really hard to be able to do this really effectively, and it's very time consuming. And so we also want to allow people to have an easy button.